Executive Director of Alpha Sigma Nu. Welcome to What's Next, this panel on postgraduate Jesuit service opportunities. Because Alpha Sigma Nu honors members for their loyalty to the Jesuit ideals and their record of service, it stands to reason that many of you would be, many of our members would be interested in a year of postgraduate service. So I really thank Rob and Fumi and Father Matt for leading this conversation, and thank all of you for jumping on. So I'll introduce our panel and then we can begin after that. So Rob Roa is the Interim Director of Recruitment, Outreach, and FJV Engagement for the Jesuit Volunteer Corps. So Rob, I'm going off LinkedIn, am I correct? Am I all righty? Rob is responsible for providing strategic oversight of recruitment efforts for prospective JVs, as well as managing programs and cultivating relationships with what we call former FJVs, which are the former Jesuit volunteers. He also manages and cultivates relationships with other institutional partnerships. With the Jesuit Volunteer Philippines Foundation, Rob worked for 1 year with rural sustenance farmers and, okay, Rob, help me, Tacloban? Good, thanks. Philippines to support and develop an innovative, sustainable, and cooperative agribusiness model. And now he looks forward to shepherding the next generation of young leaders committed to seeing their faith in action. He holds a Bachelor of Arts degree from the Ateneo de Manila University. And Rob, later on, you and I are going to chat and see if we should start a chapter there. I've always thought we should. You know, we don't have a chapter at the Ateneo. Okay, then I'm going to skip to Father Matt Stewart. Father Stewart is the Alumni Service Coordination Formation Coordinator, and in his spare time is a theology teacher and director of campus ministry at St. Louis University High School. Got enough, I think Father Matt, you got a lot of titles there, don't you?
Yeah, just keep collecting them, you know.
He spent a year as a volunteer with the Alumni Service Corps, so he knows whereof he speaks. He did that before joining the Jesuits. Father Stewart completed a master's degree in philosophy at Fordham University, a master's in choral conducting at the University of Denver, while teaching at Regis University. He completed his licentiate in sacred theology at Boston College School of Theology and Ministry. And then I'd like to ask Fumi to introduce himself because he's jumping in for his colleague, Chris Suriano, and I don't have Fumi's biography. So I apologize.
Thanks, Kate. My name is Fumi. I use he, him pronouns, and I essentially have Rob's job at JVC Northwest. I'm a former Jesuit volunteer also, and I'm in charge of recruitment of future JVs, potential future JVs like yourselves, and also our alumni efforts with former JVs. My only Jesuit education is in graduate school. So I have my Master of Divinity degree from the Jesuit School of Theology, which is in Berkeley, California. And since then, I have taught high school theology. And then for about 6.5 years, I was full-time member of the Catholic Workroom Movement. And now currently work at the Jesuit Volunteer Corps Northwest, based here in Portland. So back to you, Kate.
Awesome, thank you. Each of our presenters will give a short presentation followed by your questions. This program will really be conversational rather than formal. So just do the raise your hand thing, and when you have questions, we'd be happy to call on you. And then once Father Matt, Fumi, and Rob ask for questions, feel free to jump in. I know you are all Zoom veterans, maybe more than you'd like to be, but if I can remind you, please, to mute yourselves when you're not, unless you're speaking, that would be great. And Father Matt, how do you feel about kicking off?
I feel great.
Good.
Now, the one thing, Kate, that you forgot to mention is I am a member of Alpha Sigma Nu. So I have my little pin here, which is kind of hard to see because my camera won't zoom in on it correctly, but
I did forget. Apologies.
So anyway, I was inducted on March 25th, Feast of the Annunciation, 2001, when I imagine some of our students might not have been born yet, so that's okay. But well, great. Thanks for having me back. It's always it's great to get asked to do something, but it's even better to get asked back, which means that you didn't sort of mess up the whole thing the first time. So I'm going to speak just briefly about the Alum Service Corps, and then as Kate said, I hope we get a lot of good questions. The Alum Service Corps is an interesting program in that there are many different Alum Service Corps programs throughout the country. And our program is different from all of the others that you'll see, because most of the programs that are out there are single school programs. So you might go to Strake Jesuit High School, and then you would apply to Strake Jesuit's Alum Service Corps program, and then teach back at Strake Jesuit. Our program is a province-wide program which incorporates 6 of our province's high schools. So you have to have some experience in Jesuit education. That would include if you have gone to a nativity school, a Jesuit nativity school, Jesuit high school, Jesuit university. I suppose we would take Fumi with his Jesuit graduate school background, but some Jesuit educational background. And then you would apply to be placed in one of the 6 schools of our province. We have about 12 schools in the province altogether, but only 6 of them currently participate, with hopes that the others will start to come online in the next few years. I don't have to tell you why those plans got put on pause. I think we all know why everything has been delayed in the past 2 years. So we have schools in St. Louis, Kansas City, and Denver. There are 2 schools in Denver, 3 in St. Louis, and 1 in Kansas City. That includes an Arupe Jesuit High School, which is Cristo Rey model, Regis Jesuit High School, which is co-divisional, so a boys division and a girls division, as well as Loyola Academy here in St. Louis, which is a Nativity Miguel model school for about 60 boys, 95% African American, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, which is what I did last year in my free time, and just loved it. Fell in love with those kids and their families, and learned. I used to think sophomores were the hardest group to teach, but now I know it's 8th graders. So I've actually had the great opportunity of teaching everyone from 6th grade all the way up to graduate school. And I think I'd rather teach 6th graders of all of them. So our program is very cool, and it's a program that involves a month-long training, half of which is asynchronous and half of which is in person together. And then we have an ongoing formation program that happens throughout the course of the year, with 3 retreats happening, at least in a normal year. So we have a few weeks where we get together, and it's kind of an education degree crash course of things like DEI training, curriculum development, assessment, both formative and summative assessments. We have workshops on spirituality and spiritual growth, community bonding experiences, including cooking meals for the whole gathered group. We pray together and do all kinds of fun things together. Our program is deeply Jesuit and deeply formational, but it's not something that's only open to Catholics. It's we have students from all kinds of backgrounds, volunteers from all kinds of backgrounds that come and do amazing work in our program. And it's great. Now, why our program is unique compared to JVC and JVC Northwest, in that our program is entirely in schools. With both those other programs and a lot of other programs, you can be in schools, but ours is exclusively in schools. And it begs the question of why be in a school? What is it? Well, Jesuits did not start out being in schools, as you may or may not know, that for the first 10 years of our existence, we were a missionary order. And then Ignatius got an offer to make a school in Messina, Italy. And he said, okay, we'll give this a try. And then within another 10 years, there are 100 schools in Europe. And now it's kind of what we're known for. Because Ignatius realized that schools are an incredible place to do the work of encountering God, so that we can train our hearts and our minds to encounter God in the world when God shows up. So high schools and middle schools are ways in which we can get our students at this place and to say, hey, you ever thought about calculus? And then they'll be like, no, why would I do that? And you say, because it's really cool and interesting, or physics, or a novel, or poetry, or I don't know, name your thing, yearbook, football, it doesn't matter. That we take these kids and we say, we're interested in forming a whole person. And Jesuit high schools, Jesuit schools are a way that we do that. And so we have very clearly at the goal of what we do in the Alum Service Corps it has a spiritual base to it, that what we want a volunteer to experience over the course of the year, sure, is teaching and learning how to grade and plan lessons and, classroom management and all the cool professional things that you get to do in a school, but also to hone your own sense of spiritual development. And where is God leading and inviting you into your life? And how can our program help you discern that? We have a lot of people that end up being teachers, but we also have a lot of people that end up going to law school or med school. We are not a farm system for Jesuit vocations, though we have had several volunteers, myself included, join the Society of Jesus, though I joined 6 years after my ASC year. Men and women of all different places, all across the United States. This year we have volunteer from New Jersey and a handful from St. Louis, one from Portland, Oregon, actually, or Seattle, Washington, sorry. So we have people from all over who are a part of our program and really enrich the lives of the schools where we're at. So again, it's 6 schools. It's sponsored by the USA Central and Southern Province of the Society of Jesus. It's a year-long program, which has a part of it, a really great training program in the month of July, and then an ongoing formation throughout the year in terms of 3 retreats, and then accompaniment by me. And then each school has a mentor for you, as well as an ASC school coordinator. So tons of support and tons of opportunities for success and to encounter kids learning for many of them for the first time, the cool things that we all know as being a part of Jesuit schools, but then also being able to start thinking about where God is inviting them. So that's the ASC program.
Thanks, Father Matt.
You bet.
All righty, Fumi.
Thanks, Kate. Oh, you know what? Hang on just a second. Okay. So let me tell you a little bit about the Jesuit Volunteer Corps Northwest. It is similar to the other 2 programs, a year-long service program that starts in August. And we're based on 4 values: community, social and ecological justice, simple living, and spirituality and reflection. Really similar values to JVC. Volunteers live together in community for a year. So I lived with 6 other people when I was a JV, and we all serve at different nonprofit agencies in the city. Main difference between us and JVC is that we're just in the 5 Northwest states, right? And JVC's got everywhere else in the US. So we're in Alaska, Washington, Oregon, Montana, and Idaho. We're in both rural locales and urban locales. A lot of our rural locales are on or next to Native American reservations, and we work closely with Indigenous folks in those areas. Let's see. We are also a partner with AmeriCorps, which comes with a bunch of different benefits, including 24/7 mental health care, an education award at the end of your service year. It's about $6,400 right now, which can be put towards your past student loans or future graduate school work. Those are some of the benefits of AmeriCorps. We provide housing, health insurance if you need that. There's also a retreat program. We have 5 retreats over the course of the year. 3 are regional, meaning you gather with folks in Alaska or Montana or whatever your region. Actually, the first one is everybody. Orientation is everybody together. 2 others are regional, and then the 2 other ones are local in your locale. We also have 2 BIPOC retreats. So if you identify as a person of color, then we have 2 separate retreats just for you to support you in your service at JVC Northwest. There's a lot more I could say. I think I'll wait for questions and pass it off to Rob, who will complement what I just said.
Great. Thanks, Rob. Thank you, Fumi.
Yeah, I apologize if I'm just repeating what everyone's saying. We're so similar in what we do. I'm also now realizing when you're the spotlight, you just talk to yourself because it's you on the screen. That's incredible. Good to see a bunch of faces on here. I think this is a really important space to name that you all are considering your future, and you all have the Jesuit skill set to really consider and discern something like JVC, like Alumni Service Corps, or going to the Northwest and serving in incredible places and doing incredible work. I think one thing that is important to note that whatever program you do, I'm speaking specifically for JVC, you are working in a direct service role, right? You're not just at a computer, you're not making big bucks, you're not working from this office or cubicle or taking on some nice title that looks well on your image, that looks good on an image or on a resume. You are doing work that really involves humans and involves accompaniment of others. We say in JVC that you're doing both a service and a formation program. And a big component of that service work is being formed by the relationships you hold with folks, right? So you might have the title of a case manager in JVC, or a outreach specialist, or a teacher, or immigration intake officer at one of 200 plus agencies here at JVC. But ultimately what you're doing is you're walking with folks, you're accompanying them, which is a push of the entire Jesuit society, which is from the start was to encounter God, like Father Matt said, in people, in their formation. And I think one thing that's really cool about JVC and JVC Northwest and life after your Jesuit education is that this is an incredible space to encounter God in the world, like Father Matt said. And so what does JVC have to offer? What do we do to facilitate that? This experience post-college is structured enough to where you are given a roadmap, a whole map to explore in the Jesuit world, but ultimately you discern what steps to take, what resources to use, what relationships to build. So what JVC will give you is a house to live in one of our 32 communities across the country, anywhere from California all the way to Portland, Maine this year, all the way down to a small school area in Alabama called Mobile, where we have JVs. And if you want to go as far as Alaska, you have Fumi to talk to. In each of these places, we provide housing. So you'll have a place to stay. You don't have to worry about your living situation. You're also provided your communal food budget. So you have just enough for you all to eat well. You'll be healthy. Even though you're a volunteer, you are taken care of. And you decide as a community how you're going to eat, how you intentionally intake and consume things. And what does that look like in your own formation as a person in this world? So you get to do that. We also provide your transportation to and from work. So everything that you need in order to accomplish your job is going to be covered. You shouldn't have to spend a single cent as you volunteer, because you should be putting all of your resources into the relationships, right? One of the greatest barriers of like real relationship is that we just have these needs that need to be met. And so JVC has a wonderful kind of privilege to be able to cover all of those expenses and allow you to really dedicate your time, your personhood, your work, your life to the people that you're working with, right? And whatever role you're going to be in. Outside of that, we also offer health insurance like JVC Northwest. If you do need that, along with mental health support. All of our communities have a local support team. So even though you're moving to, let's say, Phoenix, Arizona, and you've never been to Arizona in your life, there are hundreds might be an exaggeration, at least dozens of former Jesuit volunteers who live in your city and are looking to support you as well. So they'll serve as your in-city support, from Jesuit liaisons who can offer spiritual direction, who can help you in your discernment, folks who have been there 10, 20 years, who are working at the organizations that you're working, who are maybe your future in 5-10 years, if you want to be a manager at a nonprofit, or if you want to be a high level or higher education teacher at a university. They're in these spaces, and they provide the support that you might need as you move into a city. They'll help you find what grocery stores to go to, what bus routes to take, where the best restaurants are, and where you can afford to eat as a volunteer. So you have all this local support, but you're also getting very in tune with the local community. Similar to Northwest, you're working with folks who have been there for, 20, 30, 40, their whole lives, years and years. And so they have a very keen sense of what that neighborhood needs and what work needs to be done in those spaces. So while you're listening, while you're learning from them, you're applying their solutions for that community, right? So that's the service work. It's one of 200 roles in JVC in so many different sectors, from transitional housing to addiction recovery, healthcare, legal work, immigration support, and the list goes on. On the other side of that, of course, is the formation work at JVC. You can go out into the world after graduation and get any competitive job. You all are graduates of Jesuit universities and in Alpha Sigma Nu. You will definitely get a good job, but how often do you get the chance to not only have good work for 40 hours a week, working in incredible agencies, but also receive formation and support in your personhood? And that's what the formation side is in all of our programs, is that ability to really take your work and apply it in a theological, in a spiritual, in a reflective and contemplative manner, so that your action, as we say, a contemplative in action, your action is informed by that reflection and more and more action down the line. So what that looks like for us is similar to JVC Northwest. There are periodic retreats throughout the year. It starts before you even move to your city. You go to what we call orientation, which is a chance to really connect with your community, to connect with staff, to really build those relationships with folks who are working in your same sector. So you're building a network of professionals who are going to be working in the same fields as you. And so that's really a good opportunity to start that kind of formation, that support network that you're going to need throughout your year. And then halfway through the year, you do your mid-year retreat, which is an incredible space to look at the past 6 months and then also consider what life looks like post JVC. And we use this practice called the pastoral circle, which is a really big formational piece, which you might have heard of in your work or in your lives as Jesuit educated students. We also go on silent retreat about around March or April, towards the end of your year, which is an incredible practice in the Jesuit world to really discern and reflect your next steps, and to take that time to speak with God and whatever, in a way that you've only learned to speak with God, right? And then of course, at the end of your year, we have what we call a disorientation retreat, which is meant to orient you back into the quote unquote real world, which we're learning more and more is more and more meta and crypto and all that stuff. But stepping in out of those spaces of JVC work back into life beyond the JVC, we support folks as former Jesuit volunteers. We partner with a lot of grad schools which offer scholarships to many volunteers of many different programs, so including Northwest, I'm sure including the Alumni Service Corps. They offer scholarships because they recognize the work that you did for a year. And some of them range from a full ride to Fordham University's International Political and Economic Development. It's an incredible scholarship, and they offer that once a year to a former Jesuit volunteer to do that program for 2 years, to small scholarships to Georgetown's public health school, a $5,000 scholarship to get your master's in public health. So little things like that recognize your work, that recognize the value of volunteer service, pays off down the road for you. So while you can get a competitive job right now out of college in the next 3 months, I'm sure you have offers on your table already. This is an incredible experience, and I can't stress enough like how not only transformative it is, but how simply formative it is to be in relationship with incredible people, to live in a house of folks who are like-minded, who are just as passionate, who are really just as hard-headed and want to achieve incredible things like you. To build a network and a support system like that is once in a lifetime, and you'll always have life beyond that, but I believe really this is the time to use our energy and our space and our skill set, the Jesuit skill set, to really build what we believe in our mission is a more just and hopeful world. And that takes doing things differently. So hopefully this is an opportunity for all of you to do things differently with your such incredible skill set, unique skill set coming from these Jesuit universities. But I'm sure you've heard that somewhere. So I'd like to turn it over to Kate if she has any questions, or if anyone here has questions too.
Hey, Kate.
Yeah.
The disadvantage of going first is you learn the things that you should have mentioned after you learn them. So I just wanted a couple things that Rob said, just wanted to echo too. So we also give you a place to live. I think that's kind of an important detail. Just sort of a typical Jesuit, I'm up here in the clouds talking about ideas and things like that. And you're like, where do I live? Well, we give you, every community has a house. We also give communities cars and gas cards, health insurance. If you're not on your parents' health insurance, you end up on the school's health insurance, loan deferral. Support networks are built into our schools because many of our former ASCs are teaching in the schools that we have. So like in my office, our campus ministry office, there are 5 of us and 3 of us have done ASC. Wow. And the other 2 didn't go to Jesuit universities or high schools, so they just now work at one. And then the last thing I wanted to say, and I can't believe I forgot this, is one of the, I think the coolest pieces of our program is once a week you have mass social and dinner in a Jesuit community. So like actually tonight, as soon as I get off this meeting, I'm going down to dinner with our ASC community who are here. We come for dinner once a week in all the cities and all the communities. And it's even in the midst of COVID, not maybe in the spring of 2020, it was very difficult, but since then we figured out ways to have folks come into the houses and enjoy company. And you hear all the old war stories from Jesuits of years gone by and all that's happened in the schools. So I think a unique and pretty cool aspect of our program is the ongoing support of the Jesuit community attached to the school. So anyway, I just realized I want to know where you live and how you get to work. So I just wanted to say that we do that too. So.
Well, great. Do we have any questions right off the bat? I sort of have one to start, which maybe some of you are thinking about. I've been lucky to have a couple of relatives and friends go through the program, the JV program. Well, actually, one's JV Northwest too. But I think one of my big questions is, when you're applying, how does a volunteer, and even Father Matt too, like, who picks what? Do you pick where you want to live? Do you pick where you want to, what kind of work you want to do? I mean, what's the connection between the student or the potential volunteer's interest and where they get placed? Town or city, town, and job.
So our program works honestly a lot like the Society of Jesus itself works. So you would apply to the program and say your major, whatever your major is, business or arts and sciences or health sciences or what have you. And so you've got a particular skill set in like teaching physics. Well, what we would do is match you up with a school who stated that they have a need for a science teacher. And then you would interview with that school, and we accept you into the program, and then the schools hire you. But it's basically the schools tell our program what they need. And then we look at our applicants and say, oh, look, we've got a science person. That person, boy, Regis Girls is looking for a science teacher. And boy, I really want to teach driver's ed. Well, gosh, DeSmet really needs a driver's ed teacher, which I would not recommend for your ASC experience. But so it's matched with desire of the applicant and need of the school. And so we do an interview process, and you'll hear from both Rob and Fumi. Their process is a little different, but ours is an interview process through myself and our provincial assistant for secondary education, Dr. Ron Rabori. The 2 of us do the interviews and then match you with schools, but it's the school who formally will say, we can use you and your skill set.
I can jump in. Rob, you can add to this if you need, but I'm going to try to just rather than get into the details, which differ a little bit between our two programs, just give the overview, because I think that's what, what's maybe most helpful. And basically, it's that for both JVC and JVC Northwest, you'll first apply to the program and interview with our staff to see if you're fit for the program. Then there's a second stage at which you'll go through a discernment with, hey, what kind of placements, service placements do you want to be at? And that takes into account your interests and also your skills. And then you'll interview with potential service placement sites. This is where our processes, I think, are a little bit different. For JVC Northwest, we have what's called a one-to-one match, where we will match you with one partner agency at a time. You'll interview with them, and if there's a mutual yes, then you're placed with that agency. I believe it's a little bit different for JVC.
Yeah, we're very similar up until that point where Fumi will match you one-to-one with agencies. JVC, what we do is, after collecting information from you, the applicant, on what you're looking for, what type of sector, what type of work situation, what type of community you want to live in, along with your interview with JVC, the program, we'll collect similar information from all of our agencies, ask them what they offer, what they're looking for, what they need from their agencies, and we'll give every applicant who's then eligible for matching anywhere from 5 to 8 matches. It really varies on what's available. And then the applicant will pick the ones that they want to interview at. And then those agencies will reach out to you and say, hey, heard you're interested for a job here at our agency, we'd love to interview you. And so after you've completed all of your interviews, you'll then pick the one that you feel is a best fit for you. And ultimately, our partners will also pick the best fit, because they're also interviewing, several different folks, and they'll get to rank what they need. I always equate it to like adopting a puppy, like where you think you're adopting the puppy, but the puppy is really adopting you, and you can have a myriad of options, but ultimately they do pick you. And I think that's important to stress too. Like we're doing work that they need done, and so we're looking for a good fit for our partners. Obviously, we truly believe that everyone in this room can be a good fit if they have the right mindset and the right skill set to offer. So yes, I think that's about it.
Great, thanks. Does anybody have any questions about applications or anything else for that matter? Because here's your chance to ask these three folks.
Hi, my name is Roshi. I just finished my class around, so I joined this meeting 5 or 10 minutes ago. So I probably missed a lot before. But talking about applications, so I wonder where I can submit the application, or could you just repeat a little bit more detail about how this process going? Yes.
Yeah, so for JVC Northwest, the easiest thing to do is to go to jvcnorthwest.org and find the application right there.
Thank you. Oh, and also I want to make self-introduction. So I'm a senior majoring in accounting and IT management. I joined the ASN since 2021. So it's quite during the pandemic, and we didn't have online or even in-person events. Yeah.
Well, we're glad you're here. And you can see that Rob and Father Matt, and I'm sure Fumi will too, put the link to, see, there it is. The link to all the applications will be in the chat. And I did a little homework before this, and all the websites are pretty easy to navigate and to find information, so you'll be able to see them. Even if you don't catch the chat, they're there. But I think maybe an interesting follow-up question with all three of you might be, is there, what do you look for in an application? And I don't mean so much skills, but is there like an essay that asks about why you want to do this or something like that?
Yeah, that's helpful. I will search or browse this all website after the meeting, see what I need or what I can do for myself. But thank you.
Sure.
I'd say for our program, what we're looking for is somebody who is really open to the craziness of working in a high school. And it's so fun. I mean, like, it's just so fun. It's the best ever. I can't imagine doing anything else. But somebody that really has that attitude of like, how can I plug in? How can I be of help to these kids here at this school? And somebody that's willing to have, some help with that process. But I would say it's a lot in the interview. Our written application is good, but I would say it's in the interview to really figure out, like, is this person, going to fit with high school boys or girls or middle school boys? That is this a person that a kid could look at and say, all right, you're intriguing. I'll listen to you talk to me about Algebra 2 or about, the First World War or something. I'm in. And we have people of all kinds. I mean, just all kinds of different folks. Like, as you might remember from your own high school experience, that it takes a lot of different kinds of teachers to form a student. And so we're not looking for a particular kind of personality or anything like that, but just somebody who can kind of show up, hit the ground, and be like, "Hi, this is my name, and I'm here to help out." And so it's kind of that flexibility, because a high school, you might have a schedule for the day, and then it just looks totally different by the end of the day. So, not that was my day, but it was today. So.
Yeah, I think for us, we are really looking for, there is a small answer, like short answer portion on our application. They'll ask certain questions like, what is your relationship or your history with your spirituality, and how do you reflect and how do you pray, and things like that on the application. But I think ultimately what we're looking for are applicants who aren't looking to basically like take a detour from their life. We're looking for folks who have a foundation and want to build on that foundation for life. This is not like a gap year or some savioristic kind of thing where you get to help people and feel good about yourself. This is really a professional step in what we're trying to achieve here, which is a just society. So we're looking for folks who are available, can fit their skills in different places, have that creative energy to put their skills to work for an actual cause, and ultimately who aren't looking to just kind of escape for a year and live in another place, but really want to really have the roots or the at least the space for a foundation for life. So are willing to implement the values every day beyond JVC. But that's really what the questions ask on our application.
Great, thanks.
I would just add to that, we're not looking for somebody who has figured it all out, right? But we are looking for people with an openness and a desire to grow. It's not an easy year to do any of these programs. Living in community has its own challenges. The kind of work, whether it's high school teaching or any of the service positions through JVC Northwest or JVC, are challenging. And so part of what we're looking for is a kind of emotional maturity and willingness to step up and be held accountable. At JVC Northwest, we're also particularly interested in people who if you identify as white, then people who are willing to look at what that whiteness means in the world of service. And we have a mandatory white accountability group that folks have to join if you identify as white at orientation and continue to meet. and certain curriculums around anti-racism. So so if there's not so a lot of the application questions and interview questions will focus on that, and we really want to find people who are excited, interested in being on that anti-racist journey as part of their formation with JVC Northwest.
Great, thanks, Fumi. So really, we welcome all of your questions as well. Now's your chance. No? Or do we have do we have more juniors or more seniors on this time? So if you're a junior, raise your hand. Yeah, good. Yeah, so everybody else is seniors? Okay, great. So you just so that our presenters kind of get a sense of what we've got here. So great. All right, so no more questions. We're good. I feel like I think it's a compliment to the presenters who did such a thorough job, right?
Absolutely. Great, and I'm sure this is true of the other two guys as well, but please feel free to reach out with any questions. Reach out to Kate, who will have all of our contact information. Please feel free to share that with anybody that has any questions. And the websites that we gave you guys should be super helpful.
Great. Yep, if you check the chat, you're getting emails coming flying in there from Rob and Toomey, so you can keep those. And there's Father Mance. Great. Well, wonderful. Well, we're so glad that you all jumped on, and thank you so much to Rob and Fumi and Father Matt for sharing their wisdom and advice on jumping into these volunteer opportunities. And we hope to make this an annual. This was our second annual, so we'll make sure to give it a whirl for our third. And if you have any suggestions on about how we can make this presentation better, just shoot me an email. I'd be happy to hear from you. And all you Georgetown folks, if you have not been inducted yet, because we have quite a few Georgetown kids on tonight, I look forward to seeing you. I'll be at your induction in a couple of weeks. So that will be right, Luke. See you there. Thanks again for coming, everybody. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.